episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rachelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. And welcome to another episode of Artistry, where art meets industry. Today's guest is cultural strategist and owner of the General Store, Inc., as well as founder of the Ashi Fund. Please welcome Seshat Walker.
Hello.
Yeah.
Seshat, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, sis.
Let's go from the beginning. So, Seshat, where does that name come from?
Seshat is Egyptian for Lady of Writing and Daughter of Time. And yeah, so that's not my legal name. I changed my name years ago to that when I was fully in the writing life. And I just use it ever since.
Awesome.
My mother doesn't call me that, but it's okay.
Right. So speaking of family, so you're originally from Chestertown, Maryland. It's a fishing and farming town in the Eastern Shore of Maryland. How was life growing up in the Eastern Shore versus city life living in D.C., your current location?
Oh, yeah. So I grew up in a house with my mother, my grandfather, and her 7 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
And then when my mom got into Delaware State University, I ended up living with her in her dorm.
Oh, wow.
And her sorority sisters would watch me and all that stuff. And yeah, life was very slow. We had an outhouse. So literally we had to go outside to use the bathroom.
My folks from Enfield, North Carolina, so I know all about that. Yeah,
that smooth seat.
Yeah, we had a water pump. We had to pump water. We had a farm. My other grandfather, when my mom got married to my stepfather, he had a pig farm. So I used to help my grandfather with his pig farm growing up.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea we had so much in common on that side of things. My grandfather on my mother's side from Enfield, North Carolina, like I mentioned, used to raise hogs and all of that. So it's amazing how you see some of the things they do and you still would line up for a plate of bacon. No problem. No problem. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so during that experience, you mentioned writing. So did writing was your first introduction to the arts?
I think craft was, because my mother always made stuff. And then both my grandfathers and my stepfather are carpenters. And they just always were like makers. So that was like my first introduction. And then writing was more so in middle and high school. I started getting into writing for the school paper and writing poetry and creative writing. Awesome.
I read that you've been volunteering since you were very young, very much involved in community service, wanting to support and provide services and programs to your community, and being active. Why is that so important to you?
I think it just came from my uncle Vincent. He was always like doing something in the community. And I was like, what does that mean? He was a busybody, I guess you could say. And he's always wanted to help people. And I'm an empath and I'm just naturally, that's just part of who I am, just wanting to help. So between, watching him be who he was and helping our community in Chestertown, and then growing up, seeing my mom like volunteer to help blind kids. I used to go with her to do that. And then just like naturally just wanting to help. Yeah. I don't know. That's just where it came from.
And so upon graduating from high school, you obtained a bachelor's from, let's see here. It is in Pennsylvania. I always thrown off. It says Indiana, but it was actually a school in Pennsylvania. And it's
IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Exactly. And so from there, you studied journalism as well as political science.
Yes.
So tell us
and I hated it.
So
because I was
more.
like,
What's not to love about
I loved
political
writing. I couldn't figure out how else to make money through writing. So I was like, oh, I'll just study journalism. But then I realized, like, you don't make money in journalism either. So, I hated it. And by the time I graduated, I graduated with that degree, but I didn't work in journalism right away when I came to DC. I actually worked for a large nonprofit that helped homeless people.
Okay.
And then from there, I started working at NCNW, not to get all into my early life here, but
no,
I started working for Dr. Height.
Okay.
At NCNW, and that was like a whole life transformation. And then after that, I started getting into journalism.
Gotcha. And so that time with Dr. Height, for those that don't know, Dr. Height, very much in DC politics, DC community. Would you say that sort of drove you to doing more in the community which you live?
Oh, definitely, especially for Black women. I learned early on because NCNW was basically ran by Black women. And just watching them and watching how they were able to mobilize and help nationally on national issues. So that was like a big thing for me. Coming from a small town, I had never seen volunteerism at that level and community activism at that level. So it definitely changed my life. And just how like they fundraised and how they communicated with the community, how they rolled out their different campaigns. I worked in development there. So I was part of all the campaigns that they rolled out. So I was like, it's amazing looking back because I was like, I was part of history, like working for Dr. Height and all those old elder Black women. It was just like a crazy time.
Wow.
That's why it's so wonderful to hear. And we'll talk more about the aSHE Fund, but your experience working in the nonprofit sector and building up community as well as focusing on particularly women of color and Black women, programs for Black women, supports for Black women. It's definitely something, for those of you that are in the DMV area you should look into and really seek her out because she's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
You've done event planning, you've done art direction, you've done writing, as you mentioned. Do you have a favorite?
A favorite, like creative outlet?
Yeah, creative outlet.
No, all of them. I love and enjoy all of them. I can't pick just one.
Gotcha. What would you say, considering the times that we're in right now, because it seems like a lot of folks have either clamped down and kind of went all into the one that they typically are focused on, and then others have kind of been limited in one space, but then shifted to another one. So what's the one that you've been spending more time, I guess, doing these days?
I'm just trying to balance, like, just having peace, and the creative muscle is always there. So I'm always wanting to make stuff. So I think like craft, making things out of random things I can find, like junk art. That's become like a big thing that I've been doing lately, and some writing, I guess. And just managing my various ventures, you could say. But yeah, I think like making things, and I'm getting more into like collage art, video art. I love video art. I really want to get more into that. And, once we're out of this, I want to get into building sets and do set designs for concerts.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue because you actually in 2014 obtained an MA rather, in design management from SCAD, from Savannah College of Art and Design. Want to talk to us about that whole experience and what you learned and what you got out of that experience?
Oh yeah, that definitely changed my life. I had never heard design management. My friend Karen told me about the program. It was a 2-year program. We did it all online. And we were like the guinea pigs of that program. We were the first. And basically design management is like using design strategies and processes to create with innovation in mind and progression in mind. And it just blew my mind, like the whole design thinking world and what that was. And like, hey, I've always done this, like making something out of nothing and making something beautiful or making something functional, and making sure that it's inclusive and it works for people, it's helping people. I've always done that, but I didn't realize there was an actual name for it till I enrolled in SCAD.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. And then additionally, recently you completed the MOMO, Modern Art and Ideas course. Why do you think professional development for artists and for, for individuals, in general, why do you think professional development is so important to you?
I mean, simply because life is always changing. Industries are always changing, especially creative industries. So I think you just got to stay in the know, and you should always be in a mindset to learn and gather knowledge. It's just simply that.
Absolutely. That's something that I think I first heard the term lifetime learner when I was working in education. And, so I always find it interesting when I meet people who are kind of just set in their ways, not realizing that, this part of being a human being is like evolving, right? And so, I think, just in the period of time that we've known you, to see all of the different ventures that you've taken on and different projects, like the collaborations as well. Like you're a person like us and like a lot of our creative friends who seems to have a huge network. And so just kind of piggybacking off of the idea of evolving, like how important has collaboration been to that process as well?
Oh, it's super important. It's definitely important to my process and the design management process. Like, you have to engage other people that don't think like you, don't work like you, and have other perspectives. That makes the whole creative process better for everybody involved. Everybody's learning from each other. You're gaining all kinds of different knowledge, skill set. And it's just good to work with people. You don't, sometimes in being a creative, you feel alone a lot of times in your own little bubble. And I'm already like a loner a lot of times. So I have to force myself to be like, no, like I know Rachelle can like make this, like, let me involve her in it. You know what I mean? And I want to see our people like thrive. So I'm always putting that at the top. Like that informs everything I do. Like, how can my network benefit from what I'm doing? So that's where my collaborative perspective comes from, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tell us about the General Store, which you created. Is it true? Is it 2005? That's when you first launched it? Yeah. So tell us about that and your mission with pushing the General Store forward.
So it's changed. When I first started, it was me doing PR for music artists. And I just kind of fell into that. Like local indie artists around DC didn't have a way to like communicate their releases and stuff. And I was writing at the time and I was like, I can probably offer this as a service. And then people wanted to pay me. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely doing this.
Right.
So then I started doing PR, like I said, for different artists. And then I started working with different organizations and trying to help them through their creative processes or just growing, helping organizations or creative organizations and creative people to grow. And that was the mission at the time. But now I'm kind of aligning the General Store Inc. with the Ashi Fund, which is basically helping Black women creatives grow, connecting them with resources, brands, and opportunities.
Founded in 2019, the Ashi Fund is a microgrant for women of color creatives in a form of, funds and, like you mentioned before, resources. How do folks get to know about the Ashi Fund? Where can they find it?
They can go to our website, theashefund.com, and just explore the website. They can definitely email me. Right now, because of the virus and everything, I've changed the mission I created a database, a mutual aid database for Black women creatives in need. And so people can donate directly to women on the database.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I've been doing since the virus hit.
That's awesome.
So I'm not really focused on the actual micro grants the rest of this year. I'll probably start that up next year, but that is the focus, just helping women that are struggling right now.
Directly. That's great. And that's something that a lot of folks aren't doing or haven't done. So that's a great resource.
I'm surprised it's been working. And I had like 26 women that filled out the database. And I think about 19 of them their requests have been fulfilled.
Wow.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And it was like between I just need $200 to $1,500.
Wow.
And if once you fill it out, what I would do is send out the database list to my network like twice a month, and so that people can directly send the money to the women. Wow. They would put their Cash App or however they want to be paid on there. I did not want to be a third party.
Right.
But if people still wanted to donate to the fund, they would, and then I would take whatever money that did come to the fund and send it to the women as well.
Right.
That's what I've been doing too.
Oh, that's so good. Such important work.
Thanks.
I'm just waiting for our daughters to grow up and be like, you need to go holler at Auntie Sahar. Get on that website and fund these projects, baby.
Right.
Yeah, projects.
Right. Oh my goodness. Going back to community, you're also an author. You wrote Fill That Space, a resident guide to creative placemaking. You wrote this back in 2014. Can you speak to the importance of not only community building, but creative placemaking?
Yeah, so I did that book after I was part of a creative placemaking project. I got a grant for my neighborhood to do, me, my friend Kim, and Donna got a grant, $75,000 to create, I think it was like 3 months or something. I don't even remember. It was a doozy, but programming every single weekend in our neighborhood. And that's not a lot of money.
Quick.
If you're talking about 3 months and you're talking about paying people and you're talking about reserving space and all this stuff that we didn't know about. So at the end of it, I was like, I need to write a guide because creative placemaking was becoming popular at the time. And I was like, as a resident, if an artist is coming into my neighborhood, they're part of a creative placemaking project, like I want to know how I can get involved. I want to kind of lead the effort because I live here. So those notions were not made aware to us, except, while we were going through the process. We didn't know anything. So I made that guide for other people to learn what it really is and how you as a resident can lead a creative placemaking project in your own neighborhood. Like you don't need the government, you don't need any outsider help. You could do it yourself because every neighborhood has an artist.
Right.
Every neighborhood.
And how would you define creative placemaking? For those that don't know, how would you define creative placemaking?
It's basically creating creative spaces within your neighborhood. But a lot of development real estate companies kind of utilize that, like murals or public art.
Right.
They use it to gentrify, but you know, if you live in a neighborhood and you want to see better for your neighborhood, maybe there's an abandoned building and maybe you want to turn that into an art studio, or maybe there's a field that has trash on it and maybe y'all want to turn it into a playground. That's creative placemaking.
Gotcha.
Basically. Wow. It's like creating beauty in your neighborhood. That's it.
In addition to everything that you've accomplished, you have an extensive client list. You've worked with the Smithsonian, the Halcyon Arts Lab, the Kennedy Center, the DC Public Library, Washington Performing Arts Society, the DC Commission of the Arts and Humanities, WACIF, DSLBD, and many, many others.
Showing off.
Do you have a wish list of clients you would like to work with that you haven't?
Oh, hell yeah. I want to work internationally. Mm-hmm. I would love to work with Black Rock Senegal.
Oh, yeah.
I want to do more stuff in Africa. I've only been to one country in Africa. That was Ethiopia. So I definitely want to go back.
Only one country in Africa.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you know, so many other.
But yeah, I want to work with Black Rock Senegal. I want to work with some like museums and some other organizations all over the world. That is, you know, I can't name them all, but that's the goal.
Yeah.
To be more international.
And then you mentioned Ethiopia. So last year you traveled to Ethiopia via the DC Sister Cities Grant. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, it was amazing. I just love, like, that was my first time on the continent. That was my first time seeing like Black people everywhere, like everywhere. And I was like, what is this life? So that was amazing in itself. And then we went there to get to know and interview and document the creative people there. Mm-hmm. So that was dope. Like seeing them have their own creative hub and how that's growing. The food, of course, was dope. We went to some crazy spaces. I just loved it. I just want to go back. I definitely want to go back to Ethiopia, and I definitely want to go back to the continent, to other countries. But it was a life-changing, I shouldn't say life-changing, but I felt like it was a life-changing experience. Just seeing like Black people like just chilling, just like, you know, I know they had their own struggles and things going on, and the Chinese government was definitely everywhere. But at the same time, it's just, when you step foot on that soil, it's just like a relief. Wow. It was just like a whole other feeling that I had never experienced.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
So I know that you and your husband, Kokai, who was a past guest on the show, have a lot of experience. You have a lot of success in obtaining grants. If you could offer any advice to our listeners, you know, folks who are interested in pursuing grants but have really no experience whatsoever and don't necessarily know where to start, what would you tell them?
I will say, well, for me, and I guess for us, is like when you do your first grant, after you do it, like save everything if you can. And that starts your first format. And then after that, you have your own template to work with. As you apply for other grants. No, all grants aren't the same, but you have a basis to start, because the writing part is so hard sometimes. But if you have those basic things, like, you know, they're always going to ask for a budget. You know, they're always going to ask like who your team members are. You know, they're always going to ask like for a resume. Make sure you have all those things already in a file. So it's just like, boom, I got that already. Right. So now I got to focus on this long question. I have no idea what they're talking about, you know? So I would say that just like have all those basic things together, start looking at grants, even grants that you feel like you probably would never get, like just use it and practice it, like practice applying for them, and just save everything.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's very important advice. We, actually, just yesterday, we gave a workshop where I said the same exact thing. It's like start preparing materials now so that when you do apply, you already have most of the materials necessary that are needed. So.
Yeah, because a lot of these grants are very tedious. And like I said, they ask for the same things.
Right.
So if you already have all those basic things, then it just makes it more easier to do if you just have all those things in place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In our industry, social media has become very, very much the way of life. It's very important. However, you make sure to save space for yourself. I mean, you've been quoted as saying, social media isn't the enemy. It's simply a tool for my work. It's entertainment. It's not life. So talk to us about like, how do you balance between, promoting your projects or art, but then also saving space for yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely practice. I definitely delete apps off my phone regularly. I have to, because it's just too much. And I'm already a feeling type of person. So I definitely have to manage my time on social media. I only use Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter. I got off of Facebook ages ago. I've been over it. But I'm still able to manage my projects and my companies without it. Like, I feel like with social media, you find what works for you, because all the channels may not work for your type of business.
Right.
So find what works for you and, schedule posts. I do that. If I'm taking a break. Yeah, I let people know that I'm taking a hiatus. Just make sure your audience knows that. So they're like, okay, where'd she go? We're not seeing anything. It's just very important for my own peace of mind. So I just delete Instagram on a regular. Like if I do have an event coming up, I know I have to be on it. That's fine. Then immediately after the event, I will delete Instagram off my phone.
Wow. So
because seeing it, it's all like, it's psychological. So if you see it, you're gonna want to be on it.
Yeah. Oh,
you just gonna want to be on it, whether you have something to do on it or not. It's just like, and then seeing it, and I make sure I turn the brightness down on my phone. Because that's psychological too. So the brightness and then seeing all the apps there, it's like, look at me, touch me, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
calling me.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
It is.
You have to do it for your mental health. I make sure I try not to be on it so late. I make sure I have a time where I'm turning it off, even just my phone. Like I try not to be on the phone past 11 o'clock if I can help it. I try not to be on my computer past a certain time. As you get older, sleep is very important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I love sleep. I want to get it. So the best sleep for me is not being on the computer like at least an hour before I go to sleep, and having a ritual before you go to sleep, having a routine to wind down. From being on the computer, being in front of the screen, having a phone in your face, like it's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely find myself like struggling to get my mind to my body is just like, oh, we're ready. We are ready. Lay your monkey ass down. Right, we're ready. But my mind, getting my mind to settle is usually the most difficult thing about going to sleep. I'm curious to know, because we were just talking about social media. Are there any other apps or other services that you use to help you manage your social media just to keep you more organized?
I guess Hootsuite. I'm old school. I still just use that to schedule. Let me look at my phone because I don't remember. I don't know. Like to manage, I have Google Keep.
Yeah,
Google Keep is my life. Yeah,
Google Keep is great.
And I use that for my to be great list. I don't do to-do lists. I do to be great lists because I'm like, if you get this stuff done, you're gonna be great, girl.
Yes.
So I
That's
use
awesome.
Google Keep, and I make these big categories, and I just throw my to be great list under the categories. So I have like home, I have the general store, I have the aSHE Fund, I have a personal one just for my personal care.
Right.
And family. Yeah. So those are the main buckets I have on Google Keep. I love Google Keep.
Google Keep.
Because I love the little check boxes. It makes you feel accomplished.
You
know what I'm saying? I know you Capricorns. I know how we do.
Know it.
You have never lied. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Speaking of Capricorn, so for our audience, Seshat is a very dear friend, but she's also my birthday twin. We are definitely very much Capricorns to the fullest. January 9th.
Repping hard.
Repping hard.
Repping in these streets.
Exactly. And Stan, too, is a Capricorn.
January 7th. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm talking about? You dig.
Out here.
You know,
out here in these streets. Yes.
In real life. You know what I mean? Yeah, and one of the craziest moments I remember, and we talk about this all the time, was I believe we're gonna sound like we balling right now. We were at a Grammy party, right? We were at a Grammy party at I believe it was at the Howard Theater,
Yes, it was.
and it was you two and Miran was they were chopping it up, and they look all giddy about something, and come to find out she's also January 9th.
Right.
So, you know, any January 9th people out there that's listening, that's maybe a little bit younger, trying to figure out if you're going to be great someday, trust, these three sisters are amazing. So you're in good company. Worry not.
Thank you.
Know what I mean? You know.
Well, speaking of great, yes, Seshat, okay, we're going to run your resume real quick on these awards. So she is a 2019 DC Arts and Humanities Fellowship Award recipient, a 2019 Tribe Fest DC Impact Award recipient, a 2018 Great Neighbor Award recipient, Grantee Diversity Fund recipient, Innovation Slam finalist, Social Media Week London Scholarship recipient, 2014 Ward 7 Women of Excellence Award, and the 2013 Awesome Grant recipient. Well, damn.
You're gonna read all of that?
Yes.
Bars.
Okay. Yes.
All the bars.
So what's next for Seshat Walker? What's on the forefront?
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I told you the one thing, transforming the General Store Inc. is on the forefront. The aSHE Fund is still going. Trying to make that bigger, definitely trying to solidify on the organizational development of it, because I'm not an official nonprofit.
Right.
And I don't know if I want to be, so that's just a battle I'm going through right now. And I want to travel. Like I said, I want to travel. I want to create art everywhere. Right. And I want to do set design. I don't know. I'm into this set design thing, this like video work. That's my new way of pushing some narratives out there. I guess I could share. I'm writing a musical.
Okay.
Dope.
I wrote 2 plays years ago. I put one out. It was called Black Girl. But this is my first time writing a musical. It might have some original music. It might be some recorded music. I don't know, but I'm excited about that. Like I can see it very clearly.
Oh, good.
Wow.
I can't share the premise or the concept, but it's going to be dope.
Oh, I'm excited.
We have no doubt.
Will you be doing the set design for that as well?
You said what?
Will you be doing the set design as well?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So being in the times that we're living in, with the pandemic and post-COVID, what do you see as far as theater, especially since you're in the process of writing right now? Like, how has that, how have you had to pivot your plans, or have you?
I don't know if I'm in a pivot space yet. The only thing I'm really pivoting is the General Store Inc. I look at it as alignment. I think I am pivoting in the fact that I don't want to do as much consulting individual artists anymore. Because it was becoming more like a life coach, business coach field. And I've done it enough where I'm like, I'm good. Like I can still like advise people and help them, but it's a lot and it could be like draining. So I'm trying to manage and navigate that. So I'm moving more away from that to like organizations or, you know, institutions, arts institutions, or smaller organizations rather, and helping them grow. Gotcha. After all of this is over, I just don't know. I don't know what this all will look like. I know a lot of stuff is going to be online that didn't used to be online. So I'm interested in seeing what that looks like. And how it could be part of helping small businesses who don't understand the online space, move them into that space. So I'm trying to integrate that into a service.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, but for myself, like as far as theater, I think theater, it might be online, just like any other creative content in that way. Like, I feel like, you know, any shows that are put on may not have an audience in person, but there'll be an audience online, and maybe a lot of people have to start thinking that way.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the things I learned during this, I know one of the challenges I've had as an artist that tours from time to time is that in this day and age where the internet makes it so easy for you to access people around the world, a lot of us have like fractured fan bases, right? Like where you have a pocket of fans in this small city, a pocket of fans in this major city. And it's sometimes difficult to be able to have a really successful event because, you know, you got about 50 fans in this one city, and then the next city, you got 2. And then in others, if you're lucky, you have a few hundred or a few thousand, but that's not most people. But the beautiful thing about this whole situation is I've seen a lot of people who have these fractured fan bases who've been able to bring them together in this one space and turn what would have been a local show into an international show and bring their audiences together. And so, you know, I feel like that's it's maybe an unexpected blessing of the situation, because we've technically had the means to do that, right? Like this entire time. But you see more people kind of making it more of an event and less of just kind of a leisure thing, and really kind of doing it up from home. So that's been exciting, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Now, you had mentioned before about changing up your service offering.
Yeah.
One of the things I also saw that you were quoted as saying, "I create for the love and for a living." And I think a lot of people forget that, you know, they love what you do and want to do that themselves or want you to help them with their projects, but then may not want to pay for those services. So how have you been able to navigate that whole process?
Look, I tell them, you know, when we first meet, I mean, when clients reach out to me or creatives, I tell them right away, hey, I've been on your side. And, you know, I struggle. I might not have my money look funny one week. My money might look great one week. So I get it. So I'm always telling them, like, I'm here to work with you. I'm here to work for you. But I also am doing the work. I'm doing the work. And I have to be paid. It's that simple. Absolutely. And I've turned down a lot of people that just, they don't have it. And I'm giving you like over like 3 months to pay or whatever our contract is. You know, I just have to stick to myself and my values, my monetary values, and just say no. I love saying no now. and to even some organizations, to even some businesses that may have money. And I know that you can pay what I'm asking. You know, don't disrespect me and say, oh, well, what about this? It's like, no, I'm just not going to take anything just because.
Right.
Like, you have to value yourself and value your worth, and know what you're bringing to the table. And that's it. And no hard feelings. It's not personal. It's business.
Right.
Absolutely.
How would you say, because I noticed that for a lot of creatives, right? So you have the whole left brain, right brain. You have folks who just want to deal with the creative aspect, the creative side of the act of creating the art. And a lot of times they do not focus or have the wherewithal to handle the business side of art. And so how have you been able to balance the two?
Oh, you're talking about with respect to the client or my own?
For your own. Yeah, for your own.
I don't know. I'm just a super organized person, you know, and I'm also like creative. So for me, it's kind of easy. But I also live and I'm partnered up with somebody who's also very super creative. But, you know, he manages his business because he has to, but he doesn't like it.
Right.
And I know that's a lot of artists. Like they can, like their output is like, it's nonstop output. And what I would say is just like, find somebody in your family, amongst your friends, if you don't have a budget, that can organize that for you. Organize the business aspect, because it's so important. Like, you need the marketing, you know, you need admin, you need all of that stuff in order for your business to grow and prosper. So just find somebody. If you can't hire someone, find somebody you know that you are like, oh no, I know she's a super organizer, or that person, and have them help you. That's it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Find a kid, you know, find an intern, a high school person that wants to be an apprentice, that wants to learn from you.
Yeah.
You know, that, you know, you could trust them with your business. But find somebody if that's not your thing. That's not your wheelhouse, as they say.
Gotcha. Seshat, thank you so much for taking the time out and sharing your story with us. We so appreciate you and are so looking forward to all the projects that you have coming in the future. Best of luck to you, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, keep rocking.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. This podcast has been brought to you by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartandmusic.com. You can also follow us on social media at subartandmusic. We'll see you soon, but talk to you sooner. Peace.